Good evening. This is Paul. I'm beer enthusiast and overall lush apparently this evening. And this is my friend Dave, who is a beer brewer and a brewer. We've been drinking already, can you tell? Is a beer judge as well, certified in this. And we have a beer here called Delirium Tremens. And I'll hold that up for you.
Yeah, so this is in my realm. I love this beer. It is probably in my top 3 of all the beers that I enjoy, and obviously I enjoy lots of different kinds of beers. This is a unique style. I am super excited about sharing it with Paul here, who's never had it.
It's a Belgian Ale.
Yep.
I don't know if that
If
comes
you're
through
familiar
on the
with
camera.
Belgians are more wild and they're more yeast centered. So you're going to deal with something that has a lot more wild characteristics from the yeast. We're going to have more yeasty kind of esters coming from it. Possibly these fruity characteristics that you'll find in things like Hefeweizens and stuff, beers like that, except it's more of a malt-driven beer. We're expecting to see some honey kind of flavors come from it. As well as, some biscuity kind of
I really like the honey
characteristics.
flavors in beer when they come up. It's not very common that I see them, or should say taste them. Um, this is entirely new to me, to be honest with you. I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's a rather spendy bottle. I think you said you paid $20 for this.
Yeah, it's certainly not cheap, but it is a treat by all means. I could probably name a dozen people who put this in their top 3 as well as beers that they absolutely love. It is really a fantastic beer. 8.5% alcohol, so it's one of those things that you typically enjoy in the winter months, which obviously we're in the winter months, even though we're in Arizona, it's still 85 degrees during the day.
It's cold to me.
It's cold at night, so it's around 50-ish at night.
Yeah, I think when I go to work in the mornings and I have to be there at 6, it's like 55-ish right now.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
almost need to find a coat.
it, well, I need to find a coat.
So I'm super excited to share this not only with Paul but everyone else who has never had this beer before. I mean, even before trying it here, I'm going to encourage everyone should try this. If you're a beer drinker and you've not tried this, you need to pick up a bottle, spend whatever it is, enjoy it, and tell us what you think about it, because this is truly a treat. That
And this is like 1 pint, 9.5
Yep.
ounces or something.
They
And
sell.
once again, this is like I've said this before, but you go to the bar and you buy whatever they got on tap there, you're dropping, $7, $8. So if you're gonna sit at home and enjoy a drink, it might not be that expensive really when you think about it.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to probably find this in a bar unless you have a specialty bar like we used to, that actually serves a lot of Belgian beers or a lot of uniquely sourced beers. This is something that you're definitely going to find in a lot of grocery stores. It's going to be in kind of the pint section of beers. So I see it there, or any sort of specialty beer shops. We'll open it up. You open it kind of like champagne. It's caged, though you'll see it also with a pop top. And they do sell smaller bottles if you go to a specialty store. This is how I traditionally have had it. Bottle conditioned, which kind of like champagne, kind of like a lot of your homebrew beers, they're carbonating it in the bottle. So they're pouring it in with a little bit of sugar. They're letting it actively create carbon dioxide, carbonating the beer, and you're
Well,
going to have a
there's
little bit of yeast
supposed to
sediment
be
at the bottom.
yeast settlement at the bottom of
Yeah.
this, right?
You're
So
probably going to
you
have that.
don't really want to pour off the last little bit because it's just not a good thing to drink that last little bit. And if you do pour it off and you'll see it in the bottom of your glass, don't feel bad about actually dumping that out, because
I
that's
wouldn't dump
not.
Personally, me, I love that yeast kind of characteristic.
But also, you got to remember it's still kind of a
Ooh.
live culture. Yeah, it's blowing off some stuff there.
Nice.
Still a little bit of a live
pork to
culture,
it.
so if
We'll pour you the
you've got a
top end of it.
sensitive stomach, then you probably don't want to drink the bottom end of it.
We'll pour you the top end. Now, one thing I'm going to warn Paul about, and I'll warn all of you as well, is this is a carbonated beer. This is really typical of a Belgian beer. Highly carbonated, is very normal for the style.
Oh, that's got a nice smell.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Some really good characteristic to it.
definitely picking up a lot of citrus notes, but not like hoppy citrus notes. They're more mild citrus notes, like orange juice kind of
Yeah.
citrus note.
Which is something you normally would find in a hop characteristic, but this is purely coming from the yeast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
It's not bitter or biting when you
somewhat
smell
of
it.
a musty, but then it's got that lemony or grapefruity kind of.
Yeah, I would say
estery.
there's definitely grapefruit to it.
It's coming from that. It's coming from the yeast. It is very yeasty characteristic to me. One of the things that you'll see too is some great lacing on it. You'll see that lacing that kind of sticks to the side
You
and
can
leaves a
see it
little,
there where
yeah, a little
it's
characteristic, which I
gone
really
down.
love with this kind of a style of beer.
Something about lacing, I just think it looks and feels good when you've got it in the glass. Something at least that's the way I feel about lacing.
If you see the color, it's a light color. What you'll find with a lot of Belgian ales is they use essentially what they call like Belgian candies. It's like rock sugar. And they'll use that to up the alcohol level. You're not getting a lot of the darker malts from it because of how much malt that they're using. So they're being able to boost the alcohol using those rock sugars, but they're creating some residual sweetness, some residual dryness in it.
Can you
It's a
tell?
lot like champagne.
Can you tell this guy is very enthusiastic about this?
Yeah, I love the smell. Like, this is certainly in my wheelhouse.
It's like the plank. It's got a. Oh, that's a nice aftertaste. That's very pleasant. It's on the sweet
Yeah.
side. Yeah, now that the head's gone down a bit, there's a definitely
Little
sweet note to
Yeah.
it, which is good.
I love the smell. But kind of a clovey,
I could drink this.
clovey, spicy
I could drink
characteristic with this like high warmth, and that high warmth really just kind of balances it out. It's not bitter.
No, there
Yeah, I
are
mean-
like zero bitter notes to
I mean,
this
if there's
one.
hops in it, they're only really there from a preservative standpoint, maybe to balance out a little bit of the sweetness. But it has a dryness, a sweetness to it, some amazing spicy notes to it that I just absolutely love.
I am not picking up any hops in this.
Yeah,
Like, I
Me
am
neither.
seriously picking up 0 hops. And the thing about hops, like, I like that. I like the IPAs. I like the strong stuff. I like stuff that's been dry hopped, as long as it's not too far. And there is like 0 hops in this, but frankly, I don't care. I don't pick up any of the malty notes. Honestly, I think it's
that sweetness is what I'm picking up on it.
there's a lot of sweetness.
Yeah, there's like
behind it.
a kind of a honey note that I'm picking up that's more like the honey biscuity kind of characteristic that you'll find in that, but it's not like a stout maltiness.
No,
It's a
stout
maltiness that I
maltiness
know
is-
that's coming from the malt because I know it's coming from that caramel sweetness, honey, biscuity kind of character.
I'm picking up kind of a pseudo banana feeling. I don't want to say it's a flavor, but it's like a feeling,
Yeah,
like that you have in your mouth from eating bananas. The aftertaste is very nice. It's pleasant. It's like you don't want to just chug this. You want to enjoy this. You want to let this sit, and permeate into your mouth. It's a fantastic beer, honestly. Like, kudos to you on this choice.
yeah. What I really like is that it's dry So because it's dry, it lets all these kind of yeast characteristics come in there. If you're a regular beer drinker, if you're just drinking just normal beer, um, this would be a magical experience. And one of the interesting thing about it, and has been my experience with this beer, is that it's always this magical ride of like flavors and characteristics and things that you just don't taste in regular beer in a normal everyday life. And it's a roller coaster of different kinds of flavors just being like hit you right in the face.
This is not something I would choose to sit down and suck down 2 of these bottles. This would be something I would maybe want 1 or 2 glasses of and then move on to something else. And it's more a matter of this is something I actually want to enjoy, and everybody knows like that does much drinking. The more you drink, the less choosy you are about things, the less you can appreciate stuff. And I think this is definitely one of those, like in the Bible where they talked about the good wine coming out early and the bad wine coming out later. This is the good wine. This is the stuff that you want to drink when your palate is clear, or when you just want to like enjoy a drink. Maybe you want to have a nightcap. This would be a fantastic nightcap.
Yeah, for me, I could settle down with a bottle of this and probably not drink anything else that night, because the level of enjoyment that it gives to my palate is like bar none. Like any other kind of experience of even like hanging out with friends and drinking and everything like that. Like just to be able to drink one of these gives me such an amazing experience when it comes to what's happening in your mouth. And
this is like a dessert beer, honestly. Like,
yeah,
now that I'm having it, like, this would be a beer that I would want to have as a dessert. Like, some people like to have, their White Russians for desserts or their grasshoppers for desserts. This is a dessert. Like, this is very nice. It's sweet. It's satisfying in the mouth. It's satisfying to like have, and like even as I'm talking and I haven't been doing a whole lot of drinking of it, like I just kind of want to let it sit and permeate and linger. And it's very clear. I don't know if we can get a good shot there, but it's nice, it's clear, it's got a good color. This beer is fantastic. I mean, if I'm gonna rate this beer, or I am rating this beer really, the presentation of this beer, it's really not bad. The head, the lacing, the color, I would give it about a 9.
mm-hmm.
Honestly.
And I think I would agree with that from a presentation standpoint. It's definitely a 9 to me. And maybe I'm even on the edge to be able to almost say 9.5, only because I think that I really like the beer. My only thing is like I love the lacing, the fact that it leaves so much lacing on it.
Yeah,
but
it's gorgeous.
It doesn't, like there's a certain level of lacing that I really like where it like almost leaves it behind.
Yeah.
And this will leave it behind, but then it kind of like comes down.
Well, he's been swishing his glass around, so I've got quite a bit more than he does. But I will say, like, as far as a presentation, the color is not quite 100% to me. That's why I'm at a 9. It does look good. As far as the taste is concerned, and like the smell is fantastic. It just lets you know that it's there, but at the same time, it doesn't overpower you. If you take a drink and maybe like breathe in while you're drinking, like it enhances the flavor.
The smell is like waiting in line at Disneyland, knowing that it's going to be an amazing experience, and you're waiting the entire way through it, and you're like, this is gonna be amazing. That's kind of how I feel about it.
This taste, I'm going to give a 9.5.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. I think it could use a little bit more bitter from maybe a stronger hop
Mm.
presence. Um, that's my point of view. I'm more of a hop guy, but even still, like the hops are not there, but it's still just freaking great. I think if it had a stronger honey flavor, maybe I would be closer to a 10. And I'm a stickler. Like a 10 is just an insane home run to me. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a 9.5 on the taste for sure. I would almost go 10 to it
You could
because
go
this is just
9.75 if you
mine.
wanted.
Maybe 9.75. This is just like my palate is built to drink this kind of style of beer. I really love that yeast characteristic to it. I really center around yeast centered beers, especially some of the malty ones with the Belgians. Certainly, it's a fantastic experience for me. I love it. I mean, I certainly could to drink it quite a bit. I'm gonna even go ahead and kind of finish out my scales on it. Overall, I'm gonna put it out there 9.5.
I
Um,
I I would put my overall at 9.5 on this.
yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. I'm glad you're really enjoying it.
No, this
For
is
someone who's kind of a hophead, generally, to be so focused on it, but I know that you really like the heffies, and that heffies have that kind of estery kind of characteristic to it, and this is just like almost perfection when it comes to that, especially after you've had a few beers too.
well. The thing is
Really,
about me being a hophead is I can consistently get a good hoppy beer here in Phoenix at a lot of places, and that's why I tend to lean that way. A beer that's flavored this way, I can't get that consistently here anywhere.
hmm
Like, and as I said before, like saying you don't like beer is like saying you don't like soda pop. There are so many different characteristics, so many different notes, like so many different things. I was telling Dave earlier, I'm like, next time, maybe not next time, but the time after or whatever, we've got to do a fruit beer just because they're going to bring a whole different thing to it, even though it's a mess to make, but it's going to bring a whole different thing to it. As far as my personal preference, I'm going to go with a 975 on this. And it's kind of ironic because I am a hop head in a lot of ways, and Dave is not. But so far, my two favorite beers as we've been doing this channel are not hop centric at all. Like, I've got my go to beers, but the two beers we've tried so far that I would give a good high rating to have been far from hop centric. So it's definitely it's got a sweetness to it. It's got a nice thickness to it. It's got a nice citrusy aspect. It's got a kind of a banana-y aspect. And like I said, like I know I wanted to let
wild.
Dave talk about this kind of thing more than I did, but I'm kind of finding myself in a position where I got a lot to say about this because this is worth $20 for one of these. Like if you want to sit at home and enjoy a nightcap, if you want a dessert beer, maybe some of my favorite drinks like mixed drinks at the bar or somebody came up with some random stuff, they've actually been on the sweet side. So I
Yeah, and it's not
really am
like
enjoying
overwhelmingly
this.
sweet. So
No,
like they'll
no,
talk about
no.
like things that are sweet or cloying in the beer judging world. This is not cloying at all.
Yeah, this is
Like
not overwhelming. This is
this
very
has like
pleasant.
it is not bitter. So what it does is it opens up for all these other like flavor characteristics to come out where you're tasting the yeast, you're tasting the malts because it's not being overwhelmed with that like hoppy characteristic, but it's so well done because it's dry,
Ish. It's
yeah,
dry-ish.
dry-ish from aspect of like it's not overwhelming you with kind of like this
And
sweet
even still
leftover.
warmed up, we still have some very
Yeah.
nice
And it's
lacing on the
not
glass.
syrupy. It's got a high alcohol level, which brings out a lot of that malt characteristic, which is I think where we're picking up some of that honey and that biscuity kind of flavor.
This beer, we didn't find a whole lot. We just did find the Delirium Tremens when we Google searched it. And basically, that's DTs, all right? Like, if you're a booze hound, that's withdrawals.
Literally where the term comes from. So, if you've ever seen the bottle, it's got the little pink elephant on it. Delirium Tremens, when you define it, of what the actual term means, it's like being delirious because of alcohol withdrawals, which is kind of an interesting...
It's a dark humor.
Yeah, because part of the thing is that you hallucinate, and obviously the little pink elephant, it's got a real kind of cool vibe to it. It is a fun beer. The company's been around obviously since 1654. It's a Belgian brewery. You know, a Belgian ale. It's really kind of a Belgian triple in my opinion. By far one of my favorite beers. One of the things that I enjoy most. When people are like, hey, you know beer, what would be a fun beer to try? This is almost always one of the ones that I go to recommend someone to give a try to.
You know,
personal preference, yeah, go for it. I'm not seeing a lot of, I mean, there's a certain little murkiness that I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing anything too.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the bottom there.
You might see some sort of yeast characteristic to it because obviously it's a bottle conditioned beer. So it'll actually be growing yeast in it while it's sitting in the bottle.
Until it reaches the tolerance for the yeast, and then the yeast dies.
Yeah. By far, it's a 10 for me and a personal preference. I love this beer. This falls into a style that is by far one of my favorite, and this is the perfect example of what I look for anytime I go to any sort of restaurant and I look for a beer. If I see anything that's a Belgian style, Belgian ale, triple, I'm going to lean towards it because I'm always looking for something like this.
This is a fantastic beer. It
is still amazing too.
It is definitely and that's the thing. We tend to drink our beers on the colder side because we get them, throw them in the fridge, and then let them warm up as we drink, or sometimes we actually leave them out. Like we realize when we're doing a review, we're like, oh wait, the beer is too cold, so we let it sit out for 45 minutes or whatever to warm up. This beer warming up versus this beer cold, it's different, but this beer is just as good both ways.
Yeah.
I could enjoy this beer at 37 degrees, and I could enjoy this beer easily at 70 degrees.
I would love to hear your experiences with it because, man,
Yeah, so you're giving it a 10, right?
For sure, yeah. And I would say one of the things that got me into brewing and really got me into, like, the fact that beer is an amazing world and a roller coaster of flavors and characteristics. Hey, thank you guys for checking in on us. Certainly one you must try. And I would say that anyone who wants to get into beer, this is a must.
Yeah.
I encourage you guys to check it out.
Dessert beer like a must.
Delirium Tremens. Tell us what you guys think about it. Put it out there in the comments. We'd love to see the comments on it. Like, share our content. We're trying to grow our content. We're trying to expand beyond just doing even a little bit of beer judging. We're going to be doing some brewing with this channel, as well as we're going to be doing some visiting to some local breweries. We may even travel outside of our state a little bit and check out breweries in your neighborhood. So we'd love to hear your opinions on it.
Yes.
And give us your recommendations. You want us to try a beer?
And
let us know.
I want to throw this out there. So far, most of the beers we've tried have been on the higher end price points. If you got something that's on the lower end price point that's not real common, like, you know, maybe somebody's got a thing for Modelo. I wouldn't mind doing a Modelo review. Maybe somebody's got a thing for...
I'm a big fan of Vienna lagers. So
yeah.
Vienna lagers are great beers, and Modelo makes a good one.
But we would like to do not just the expensive beers where you're paying $20 for a bottle. we'd like to do some of the cheaper ones because maybe you don't want to pay that, you know? So any suggestions, please, we're entirely open.
Yep, we'd love to hear from you. Have a great evening. Thank
Good
you for
evening.
checking in.
Cheers.
Cheers.